2024 may not have been the greatest year for anime. We didn't have any genre-defining bangers like Chainsaw Man, though Dan comes close. No singular moments where history was made, other than Frieren becoming the new undisputed king of anime on my anime list. The king is dead, long live the queen. Actually, now that I think about it, 2024 was an amazing year for anime. The only people who are whining are the shonen fanboys. People who don't think anime should exist unless it's a Dragon Ball Z clone. For the rest of us, isekai fans, fantasy fans, slice of life fans, and especially romance fans, 2024 was a pretty good year. In fact, you could say that 2024 was the year of romance. Welcome once again to Musings by Danon. My name is Danon, and I'm currently reading over 600 manga and light novels. My two favorite genres are fantasy and romance, and today we'll be discussing many of the great romance moments in series from 2024. There will be far too many spoilers, so consider this a general warning. Also, before I forget, please like and subscribe. I know it's annoying to hear, but statistically, if I don't mention it, the video gets fewer subscribers. Okay, with that out of the way, let's start with anime. Winter season started us off right by giving us the second core of Dangers in My Heart. Our adorable almost couple finished their second year of high school and became third years. Every day they've been inching closer and closer to becoming a couple. Will they finally cross that threshold? What do you mean you didn't watch the first core and have no idea who Yamada and Ichikawa are? Are you living under a rock? Okay, allow me to explain this adorable series and why you should watch it. Our main character, Ichikawa, is obsessed with death and murder. He reads books about serial killers, has skulls on all of his clothing, and is generally your typical 8th grader. While his classmates are obsessed with boobs, Ichikawa is convinced he is a dangerous person who will one day hurt someone. His target? Yamada Anna, the prettiest girl in his class. Actually, she may be the prettiest girl in the whole school. No, the whole world. And I want to hurt her. Okay, I know that sounds super creepy, but the creepiness ends about halfway through episode 1. It turns out that Ichikawa is obsessed with Yamada because he's crushing on her. But he's young and doesn't understand his own feelings. Yamada seems to enjoy hanging out with him and finds him interesting. As time goes on, they both grow closer together. And Ichikawa comes to realize that Yamada may be even weirder than he is. And that love comes from not only accepting your partner's weirdness, but embracing it and making it yours as well. Well, junior high love does at least. We also have the adorable almost harem Hokkaido gals. I say almost harem because even though there are several girls interested in Tsubasa, there was only ever one girl in his eyes, Minami. He grew to love her and she, in turn, fell for him. But Minami was concerned about her friends' feelings as well, so she held herself back. Not only did the anime air this year, the manga also came to an end. You can read the whole thing over on Manga Plus. One of the most wholesome series of the entire year also aired in winter, A Sign of Affection. A boy meets a deaf girl that he's so interested in that he learns sign language just to ask her on a date. How cute and wholesome is that? If you want something heartwarming, go check this series out. Finally, in everyone's favorite trope of enemies to lovers, we have Seventh Time Loop. The villainess enjoys a carefree life married to her worst enemy. Riche, the Duke's daughter, is stuck in a time loop. She dies at the age of 20 and then goes back to age 15, the very day her engagement is broken. On her 7th loop, she becomes engaged to the man who killed her on her 6th. Even though she's wary, after all, this man basically started a global war and was known as a cold and ruthless bastard. She notices a warmth and kindness in Prince Arnold. She wonders what caused him to become so hateful in her previous time loops. As it always does, the seasons change and winter gives way to spring. A time for new beginnings and new romances. Or retellings of old romances in one case. Spice and Wolf got a remake that blew everyone away. At least the 10 people who watched it. This series didn't particularly blow up, at least outside of Japan. Then again, the people this show would appeal to aren't the type to rant and rave about it on social media. Spice and Wolf is a slow-burn romance buried under a capitalist simulator. Our main character, Lawrence, is a traveling merchant who has a fateful encounter with Holo, the wise wolf. She's a goddess and decides to travel with him. After many adventures, Lawrence realizes he is in love with Holo and decides to do something about it. But it does take a while. The original light novel series is 17 volumes after all. Chillin' in Another World with level 2 super cheat powers is a power fantasy isekai where the main character, Banaza, comes from a different fantasy world rather than Japan. As such, he's used to different races, but is happy to see that the blatant racism he's used to experiencing in his home doesn't exist here. Which doesn't exactly make up for the fact that he's sent to his death right off the bat by the king who summoned him. His powers aren't up to par, and his stats aren't anywhere near the other hero who was summoned alongside him. But, like the title says, he gains cheat powers after killing a single monster. Now level 2, he's able to wipe out an entire army of demons with a single spell. His stats all changed from single-digit numerical values into some weird symbol, and his mana reserves seem bottomless. Eventually, he meets the person who was supposed to be the leader of this invading army, Fenris. He beats her, but doesn't kill her. He's a merchant after all, not a soldier or a hero. Killing is something he avoids. As such, Fenris submits herself to him, as is the tradition of her clan. Eventually, the two become husband and wife. The nice thing about this series is how Fenris is constantly trying to improve herself so that she can feel worthy of her husband. Once Bonanza realizes that he also loves Fenris, he does the same. But theirs isn't the only romance in the series. A certain demon lord starts developing feelings for a human knight, and she, even after learning his identity, starts to feel some kind of way about him as well. Though their story advances further beyond where the anime ends. Spring also brought us an Archdemon's Dilemma, How to Love Your Elf Bride. Longtime patron Marcus absolutely loves this series. Not only is he a huge fan of elves, Neffy is his absolute favorite. This series strikes a balance between wholesome and horny, between serious and silly. If you want a nice all-around fantasy romance between two powerful idiots who don't know how to express their feelings, you should check this one out. Finally, we have A Condition Called Love. Hotaru never cared about love, and the idea of having a boyfriend never crossed her mind. Until one day, she witnessed her classmate Hanoni getting dumped by his girlfriend. Feeling sorry for the boy, she holds an umbrella over him. The next day, he confesses to her. Of course, Hotaru isn't interested in the slightest, but Hanoni is persistent. Eventually, she decides to give this whole dating thing a chance. After all, what's the worst that could happen? She actually falls for this guy? The warmth of spring gave way to the heat of summer, and one series that burned too hot was our Last Crusade, or The Rise of a New World, Season 2. For some reason, we only got 4 episodes before the series was put on hiatus. Which makes me angry because this series is one of my favorites. Is it because I'm a sucker for Shakespeare derivatives? Absolutely. I'm not saying the series is good, but if you love an enemies to lovers story, go check this one out. I'm hoping Season 2 eventually finishes being animated, otherwise I'm going to have to beg Cute Stuff to pick me up the light novels for my birthday. One of the most beautiful romance series this season was, of course, animated by Bones. I'm talking about the magical girl and the evil lieutenant used to be archenemies, of course. This soft and cute series tells the tale of an innocent girl who was given powers by a scumbag of an angel, who now fights against an evil organization. Unfortunately for the evil organization, the lieutenant in charge of taking over Tokyo falls in love with her. And she, in turn, takes an interest in him. Not much happens in the series as far as advancing their romance, but it is still worth watching. The world these two inhabit is well thought out and beautiful. But the author of the manga died before the series could be completed. So if you find yourself wanting more at the end of the series, that's why. The series is both beautiful and sad at the same time. But I wouldn't call it a sad anime. I just wanted to give you a heads up. If you think this is all light and fluffy, the sad moments will hit you like a brick. Speaking of series that hit you like a brick, Days with My Stepsister reminded us that there are romances that exist without comedy. The series is a proper romance. It's the story of a forced family, step-siblings, living together, trying to keep an appropriate distance, but falling in love nonetheless. It is a slow burn, as most romances are, and is not broken up with comedy or ecchi moments. If you're looking for a more nuanced and mature story, go watch Days with My Stepsister. But for those of you who love comedy with their romance, these next three should help scratch that itch. Makain, Too Many Losing Heroines, deserves its own video, but there are only so many hours in the week, so I haven't gotten around to it yet. In all love triangles or harems, one girl gets picked by the main boy. The rest are left by the wayside to cry and wail and gnash their teeth. Or steal an indirect kiss when the man they love leaves their drink behind to go confess to a damn homewrecker. This is their story. I know, it's hard to really call this one a romance. Rather, it's a slice-of-life comedy about romance. Specifically, the side of the losers. Everyone in this silly show is eccentric, and it's hard to blame them for being weirdos. After all, everyone deals with grief in different ways. So even though this isn't exactly a romance, it relies on romance to exist. Therefore, fans of romance will love this series. 2.5 Dimensional Seduction is an old-school harem rom-com with a main character who isn't interested in 3D girls. After being traumatized by his mother leaving him and other women abandoning him or betraying him, Okamura falls in love with the one girl who could never betray him, his angel, Liliel. A literal angel from an anime. That's right, Okamura is a 2D obsessed otaku with a waifu whom he loves more than any real girl in the world. After the new school year starts, Okamura finds himself alone in the manga club when a girl joins. Oh god, she's gonna be one of those romance enjoyers. Probably reads a bunch of shoujo manga with the main girl running to school with a piece of toast in her mouth. But Lilisa is also a Liliel fan. In fact, she wants to be Liliel. She's an aspiring cosplayer and, unlike a certain blonde Gyaru who also loves cosplaying, she can make her own costumes and do her own makeup. Can Okamura's heart take it when his beloved waifu jumps off the 2D page and into the 3D world? Eventually, other girls join the club and start cosplaying with Lilisa, including Mikari, Okamura's childhood friend. Before he know it, this boy who hates 3D women is surrounded by his very own harem. What is an otaku to do? Alya Sometimes Hides Her Feelings in Russian is easily my favorite romance to air this season. Got a bit of ecchi, but not enough to anger the prudes. It's got character development, mystery, interesting, well-written plot lines, and enough comedy to make even the sternest person laugh. Oh, and we're getting a season 2. 3 other aired this season, but I haven't had the time to watch them yet. Pseudo Harem, Senpai is an Otonoku, and Love is Indivisible by Twins all look adorable, but again, I haven't had time to watch them. I've heard enough that they warrant a mention, though. And that brings us to fall. The big harem anime this season is, of course, Tying the Knot with an Amagami Sister. Ryu Kamahate is studying to try and enter Kyoto University's medical school. He finds himself living in the Amagami Shrine, and the head priest has decided he will marry one of his 3 granddaughters. Of course, he doesn't want to marry, because that would interfere with his plans to go to medical school. We know that he eventually does marry one of them, but we're not sure which one it will be. Classic ecchi rom-com with cute girls and a fun premise. Next up, Blue Box is a wonderful shonen about a boy pushing himself to be worthy of the girl he loves. Every day, Taiki comes to the gym first thing in the morning, and every day, Chinatsu is already there before him. Taiki plays badminton, while Chinatsu is the star of the girls' basketball team. And, as often happens in the manga, when Chinatsu's parents move overseas due to work, she moves in with Taiki. Both their moms played basketball many years ago and remained friends to this day, so it was only natural that she move in. This makes things very awkward for Taiki, but maybe things will work out. I mentioned Amagami Sisters as being the only harem this season, but I lied. In fact, this season we got a remake of the original harem rom-com, Ranma 1/2. Ranma's dad is one of the biggest assholes in the history of anime. You see, he promised that his son would marry the daughter of his friend. Okay, not a big deal. Except he made that promise more than once. He made it many, many times. While there are 3 main fiancés in the series, it seems like every other episode we meet someone who was promised to Ranma by his dad. That being said, this series is based on the manga by the legendary Rumiko Takahashi, so go give it a watch. If you love your women crazy and your men even crazier, you'll enjoy Yakuza Fiancé. The children of 2 rival Yakuza families find themselves engaged. They are both crazy, and he is apparently a lot crazier for her than she is for him. Eventually, he may turn her around, but who knows what kind of shenanigans we'll be in for. 365 Days to the Wedding is the story of 2 introverts who decided to get engaged in order to prevent the travel company they both work for from shipping them overseas. Of course, their fake relationship eventually evolves into a real one, but these things take time. Finally, finishing up this year is an anime that everyone thought would be just another shonen battle series. In fact, the author had every intention of just writing another shonen battle series. But do we really need more of those? No, we don't. Dandanan is a romance between 2 awkward teenagers who happen to get superpowers and fight ghosts and aliens. On the surface, the series seems like just another shonen battle series. But after a few episodes, you'll realize I'm right. At its core, Dandadan is a romance. I'm so grateful that Tatsu's editor forced him to read a bunch of romance series after rejecting all of his previous ideas. That's it for anime, but what about manga? Several romance manga came to an end this year, but we also have several new ones. And some ongoing series had their big moments. Let's talk about ongoing manga that had some big events this year. And if you didn't pay attention to the earlier spoiler warning, here's where it starts to get serious. You can skip to the timestamp on the screen to go to the next part if you want to. First of all, the event that shocked anime-only viewers was Uzaki finally having sex. That's right, they're adults in an adult relationship, and they finally did the deed. Honestly, if you were shocked about this or disgusted, I feel sorry for you. The scene was funny and tasteful, and not pornographic by any means. So if consenting adults engaging in coitus bothers you, I'm sorry, get over yourself. Next up, Komi Can't Communicate had some adorable moments with Tadano and Komi advancing their relationship. He recently spent all of winter break at her grandma's house studying so that he could get into the same college as her. Though Tadano is far better at communication and his ability to read the room borders on the supernatural, he's not as book smart as Komi is. But after she helped him, he was able to pass the test. But that's not the big moment I wanted to bring up here. Rumiko Mombagi finally got her happy ending. Mombagi is clearly second best girl. She was also in love with Tadano, but Komi refused to let that come between them. Honestly, the staircase scene with the 2 of them chatting after she figures out that Komi's in love with Tadano is one of the most intense and stressful scenes and shows the masterful writing of Oda. To get back on point, Wakai is the captain of the soccer team, and one of the darlings of the school. He also can't talk to girls. So of course he became interested in Mombagi, an outgoing and darling Gyaru. All the way back in chapter 39, which is from April of 23, Wakai confessed to Mombagi. It wasn't for another 44 chapters that we got an answer. After leading his team to victory, he told her, in front of everyone, that they won because she was watching. Not only that, he plays for her now. He wants to win to make her happy, which sounds silly, I know, but earlier she was crying with happiness because he was just so good. So he wants to continue to make her happy. So be mine, forever. Mombagi, overwhelmed with emotion, replies, uh-huh, which is all she's been able to say for the last few pages. So Mombagi finally has a man who loves her for her, who is comfortable around her, who enjoys her presence. Someone who isn't comfortable talking to girls chose her above all the other girls at the school. I wish them all the happiness they both deserve. Speaking of eternal happiness, we finally got a confession in Please Go Home Akutsu-san. It only took like 170 chapters for it to happen, of course, but it's nice to finally see our lovebirds be honest with each other about their feelings. And now they are working towards their future together with marriage in mind. If they're going to be living together anyway, might as well plan on a wedding in the future. The really funny part about this whole scenario is Akutsu realizing that they've already done all the couple things except for the physical stuff. They've seen each other naked, been on trips together, hang out all the time, eat their meals together, and are always in each other's company. She spends the night at his place more often than she goes home. But now that it's come to the final step, she's both afraid and excited. I mean, she even bought some sexy underwear to help psych her up for their first time together, but after wrestling with Uyama on his bed, not a euphemism, they were actually wrestling, and having said underwear revealed, she kind of freaked out. Of course, the biggest event in the year of romance was the sudden confession in My Dress Up Darling. Many thought that the series was coming to a bad end. After all, Marin was mad at Gojo for being depressed and not talking to her, and she thought it was her fault. After all, if he's spending so much time on her cosplays, then he wouldn't have enough time to work on Hina dolls. So her selfishness was interfering with his dreams. She told him he didn't need to make costumes for her anymore. Of course, this led Gojo to explain himself. He was jealous of the attention Marin was getting. Everyone was falling in love with her costume at Winter Comiket, but Marin is his. He loves her after all. So he says that and turns to leave. And of course gets tackled by Marin. She's been in love with him since the first arc of the manga, after all, but she's been too afraid to say anything. And while things seem to be back to normal for our doll and her dressmaker, the story continues. And I believe we're in for some more craziness. That's enough for big moments in ongoing series. Let's discuss some great romance manga that came to an end in 2024. As I stated earlier, Hokkaido Gals came to an end, and a definitive end at that. The final chapter ends in a wedding. Not our main couple's wedding, the wedding of their daughter. It's a lovely chapter that showcases family traditions and how much children resemble their parents. The whole manga was just a cute and fluffy ride, and its ending was perfect. Speaking of adorable romance manga, another one that ended this year is the youthful communication manga, You Talk Too Much, So Just Shut It Already. The manga is about a deaf girl who sits next to a boy who can't stop talking. He tries to understand her, but fails miserably. Eventually, he does start to learn some sign language. Also, the two of them realize they have feelings for each other. If you like your romances cute and awkward, they are junior high kids after all. You'll enjoy You Talk Too Much, So Just Shut It Already. The Teasing Master saga has finally reached its conclusion. Including the original Teasing Master Takagi-san, there are a total of 3 series. The first one, which got adapted into 3 seasons of anime. The second one, which I consider the best of the series, is about the two as adults with a child of their own. Finally, there was one more where their daughter was the one getting teased. That one, titled Teasing Master Ne Takagi-san and Karakijozu no Nishitaka-san, also came to an end. So the entire multiverse saga of Takagi and Nishitaka has come to a close. Of course, this last one was only a single volume, but it was cute and fun regardless. Now, this next one requires a bit of an explanation. Okay, maybe not as much if you've seen Hitch. Some people have no confidence in love. They come across as creepy, they are unable to confess, or they are sure that they're not their lover's type. So they need help. A confidant. A consultant. Someone who's an expert in love who can help them walk the path of romance. Someone to help them achieve their happily ever after. Which is what Love Agency is all about. Mari Marie Winter Nanase is half Japanese, half Swedish, and though she appears to be a put-together lady, she's actually a coward. While she has no problem talking with girls, boys scare her. The problem is, until her family moved back to Japan, she only ever attended all-girls schools. You know, the ones taught by nuns. But even a girl sheltered her whole life, someone with no immunity to the disease called boys, can fall in love. You see, there's a boy who's caught her eye. He's a quiet, shy boy who frequents the library. To get closer to this boy, Seiki, Marie runs for the library committee. But she's still too scared to talk to him. One day, she comes across an ad for a consultative firm called Agents of Love. Her curiosity overwhelming her, she decides to give them a call. The problem is, as we soon find out, the boy she's interested in is also interested in her. And he's using that same agency. So the two of them are getting advice from 2 people who work for the same company. Both are deceiving the other person by pretending to be something they're not. Will their secrets get discovered? And what's going on behind the scenes at the love agency? Go read it and find out. The series is complete and there's only 39 chapters, so it won't take you that long to read. Another series that came to an end this year is The Girl I Like Forgot Her Glasses. For those who watched the anime, quite a lot happened in the series beyond what was shown. Yes, we did get several more volumes, and of course the two did officially become a couple. Komura-kun even spent some time getting to know Mai-san's parents. The manga ends as it began, with Mai-san and Komura-kun in their classroom. They've graduated by now, but wanted to say goodbye to their classroom. It's a very special place after all. It's the place they met and fell in love. Speaking of falling in love, I Fell in Love So I Tried Live Streaming was another long-running manga that came to an end in 2024. For those who haven't read it, the premise is about a boy who quits streaming and wants to live in the real world. In order to do this, he joins a high school that has a share house as a live-in option. 3 boys and 3 girls all living in the same house. Determined to live in the real world and not be terminally online, Inuzuka Yu soon discovers the massive mistake he's made. Everyone in the house but him is a streamer. All of them are keeping it a secret, but of course Inuzaka discovers it. He also helps them each keep their respective secrets. Oh, remember how I said there were 3 boys and 3 girls in the share house? All 3 of the girls eventually express interest in our main boy. Of course, there could only be one winner, and it was sort of obvious from the start which girl would get picked. But if you want to find out for yourself, you'll have to read it. Another manga that is coming to an end, though we haven't quite gotten there yet, is Chiari's Love is 8 Meters. The ending should be coming before the end of the year though, or very early January 25. At the time of recording, only 2 more chapters remain. This adorable series is about childhood friends who reunite in high school. Only Chiari is now 8 meters tall. That's a bit over 26 feet for you Americans. This series is adorable. Chiari is a delightful girl who easily gets jealous whenever Yumije pays attention to other girls. In reality, he only has eyes for Chiari. And his hot teacher. But it's his teacher's muscles he's attracted to, not the teacher specifically. That doesn't make Chiari feel better, though. She's still jealous that he would pay attention to anything other than her. The series is cute and very ecchi. When you've got an 8 meter tall girl, you can easily get lost in her, if you know what I mean. Another adorable manga that did come to a rather abrupt end was You and I Are Polar Opposites. Not only did this series come to an end, it also got an anime announcement, which I'm very excited for. There was also an announcement about a new series starting. I'm hoping that the story of our 2 lovebirds continues in the series. I suppose I should explain what I mean. Our main characters, Suzuki and Tani, started dating in the first chapter. The rest of the manga is about how, despite them being completely opposite, Tani is withdrawn and doesn't care what anyone thinks about him, while Suzuki is outgoing and cares a great deal about her image and maintaining the status quo with her friends. They both admire in the other what they themselves feel they're lacking. Suzuki always goes with the flow, even if she'd rather be doing something else, and she's attracted to how strong Tani is. There is a great deal of power in the word no. Now, Tani isn't rude or an introvert or anything. He's the type to sit back and observe. If he doesn't have anything to say, he keeps his mouth shut. He only talks when he feels it's important. Meanwhile, Suzuki hates awkward silences and will talk your ear off if you let her. He admires that she's always chipper and outgoing. But they aren't the couple I'm thinking of. Throughout the series, another couple forms, and as the manga was ending, a third couple almost formed. Both of them were too scared to say anything, but in the second to last chapter, they promised to stay in touch despite graduating from high school. They shared a tearful moment, realizing that high school was over and nothing would ever be the same again, and didn't want to lose the connection they had formed. But they didn't officially become a couple before the manga came to an end. I'm hoping that her new series will detail their relationship a bit more, but we'll have to wait and see. The author's probably going to be busy with the upcoming anime. Finally, the biggest series to come to an end this year was Nagatoro. I know some people were turned off by the first chapter, when Nagatoro brought her senpai to tears, but that was as far as she pushed him throughout the series. And as the series went on, Naoto gave as good as he got. Sometimes. He even impressed her. If he'd remained a loner loser senpai who never talked to anyone, he never would have piqued her interest. She would have gotten bored within a couple of chapters. But that's not what happened. Naoto evolved. He learned to speak his mind and stand up for himself. And he even started to enjoy Nagatoro's teasing. To a degree, of course. The two cheered each other on and teased each other, and wound up as a happy couple. Now, I'd like to wrap up this video by talking about some new romance manga that started in 2024 that I think you should check out. Some of them I've already talked about on this channel, but they still deserve a mention. The one I want to start with is Goinda-san's Naughty Secret. This is an adorable series about a gal who fails at expressing herself in spectacular ways. Goinda will dismantle a desk to return a soccer ball to the boy she likes, and will destroy her own umbrellas for the chance to stand next to him. But heaven help any of her friends who drop hints that she's interested in the boy. Next up, I'd like to mention a manga that I've already talked about, Hima-ten. The series is quickly becoming a harem, but I'm not sure if Tenichi is interested in any other girls other than Kanai. Hima seems to be developing feelings for him, and the new girl, Kana, is crushing on him right off the bat. Which means that best girl Kanai needs to pick up the pace. Good thing she got that lipstick from Hina. I love a modern retelling of a classic fairy tale, and Sleeping Beauty is one of the best. It's certainly the best Disney movie ever made, and something we'll never see again because Disney fired all the unionized hand-drawn 2D animators so they could save money and switch to digital 3D. Sorry, rant over. The prince slays the dragon and sneaks past the thorned vines. He climbs the tower, expecting to find the sleeping princess, awaiting a prince to come along and kiss her to break the spell. Only this time, there are 7 Sleeping Beauties, which is also the title of this delightful manga. Also, kissing the princesses doesn't break the spell, it only awakens the kissed princess. The rest of the kingdom is still under the spell of the evil witch who cast it. So now, the prince and the 7 princesses all need to work together to figure out the source of the curse and how they can break it. That is, if they don't all kill him for stealing their first kiss, of course. Another new one that started this year is the adorable When I Got to the Remote Class, I Had to Move In with the Most Beautiful Girl in My Class. Not much to say about this one. Main girl doesn't want to just invite main boy over because she likes him. That wouldn't be proper. So she pretends to be bad at technology. She had to maintain her image as a prim and proper young lady after all. Since they're stuck at home due to a pandemic and will be attending school remotely, she absolutely needs someone who can keep her Wi-Fi running. So now, our main boy finds himself living with the most beautiful girl in their class. And she is having a great time teasing this boy. Another one that I've already done a video on is My Ex-Wife is Young Again and She's in My Class. The day they signed the paperwork on their divorce, the former couple is hit by a car. They are then reincarnated to their first year of high school, the day they first met. They soon discover that they both have all their memories. So they have the closeness of a married couple and the hatred of a couple that just divorced, all wrapped up in the raging hormones of teenagers. Will they get back together? Are they destined to fight forever? Can they be happy with each other? Read and find out. Another new series that deserves its own video is The Person Sitting Next to Me is Looking at Me with Perverted Eyes. You all know that one obnoxious boy who said whatever was on his mind, and whenever he was called out for his obnoxious behavior, he would just claim he was being honest. Complimenting girls on their breasts or how good they smelled? What if the tables were turned on him? What if the girl sitting next to him unloaded all of her inner perverted thoughts on this boy? He was only trying to get the girls to blush, he didn't really mean anything by it. But that doesn't stop Iguchi from complimenting Ikizawa. After all, he blushes so prettily. Another one that I've done a video on is My Older Sister's Friend. Older sister is obsessed with all things beautiful, so when she finally brings home a friend, of course, she'd be flawless. Her younger brother instantly fell in love with her. Now that Big Sister is going to college, her younger brother lives with her in order to take care of her, and Big Sister's best friend comes over to visit all the time. And it is obvious to everyone but them that the two are both head over heels in love with each other. In fact, that's why Asahi is able to hang out with all the girls at school, making the boys jealous. He doesn't even see them as potential romantic partners. Not when his eyes are so full of Hanako. One that I should probably have included in my Gal X Otaku video is Secrets of the Gal Wife. In Japan, it is frowned upon when a married woman continues to work. And it is pretty rare for a married couple to stay at the same company. But what about when they're married before they got hired? Hara is a computer programmer, while Fuyuki is the leader of the design team. Both work on computer games together. In fact, that's how they met in high school. Hara was designing a game, but his design sucked. Fuyuki designed for him, and the two of them built a video game together. And, while working together, they fell in love with each other. This series is very cute, and I highly recommend checking it out. Another one that deserves its own video is Sumiki Ogami and the Strange Everyday Life. Yatuka is looking to break free from his boring life. Every day it's the same thing. Go to school, hang out with friends, go home and do homework, repeat. He wants something different, but he's not sure what. Maybe this was a bit extreme, but Yutaka decides to go to a school full of mythical creatures known as Genjin. In other words, it's a monster school. And sitting right next to him on his first day of school is Sumiki Ogami, a werewolf. Instantly, life is far more interesting. Not because she's a werewolf, but because she's so outgoing and interesting. Soon Yutaka's world is opened up to all kinds of possibilities. He's sure he's made the right choice, but he still screams when Sumiki grabs him, throws him over her shoulder, and leaps from the top window. I plan on doing a much more in-depth review of this series after it gets an official release. Speaking of official releases, our next series has an official release coming in February. Now That We Draw is, in my opinion, the spiritual successor to My Dress-Up Darling. No, I'm not joking or exaggerating. This series is sweet, nuanced, and a bit ecchi without going overboard. Uehara, our main boy, is crying on the rooftop, clutching his recently rejected manga in his hand. And while debating what to do with it, he shoves it in his locker. Only he misses and accidentally puts it in Miyamoto's locker. Miyamoto is the class Gyaru. Top of the social caste, a shining example of beauty, grace, and social skills. She sees the manga and starts reading it. He tries to stop her, but Miyamoto takes off down the hallway, her long legs quickly outdistancing the short Uehara. She suddenly stops, crying over how sad the story was. Of course, now that she's seen his, it's only fair that she show him hers. Shyly, Miyamoto pulls out her tablet and allows Uehara to read her manga. As it turns out, she too is an aspiring mangaka. Specifically, she's going for the romance genre, just like Uehara. And like Uehara, she was also rejected because her story isn't very realistic. Neither of them have any first-hand experience in romance. The solution? They should start dating. They try out all sorts of things, much to Uehara's regret and Miyamoto's laughter. But eventually, they try holding hands. And maybe this fake relationship will become something more. If you want to find out, you'll have to go read it yourself. Volume 1 comes out in February. Were there any that I missed? Which ones are your favorites? What was your favorite romance moment from 2024? Leave a comment below. Thanks for tuning in. Once again, a huge shout out to my editor Cutestuff. I couldn't make these videos without her. If you'd like to hire her to edit your own videos, she can be reached at cutestuff.edits@gmail.com. Link is down below. If you're looking for ways to support the channel directly, you can head on over to patreon.com/Danon. There are several tiers to choose from. You can pick an anime or manga for me to do a video about, or you can join our monthly manga club. I also wanted to give a quick shout out to all of my patrons: Waffles, Jiraiya, Danny, Muffins, Marcus, Brett, Roxy, Alix, Borgi, Nazwan, Konga, Aaron, Chris, Robert, Austin, William Pye, Kazaris, Booksu, Patrick, Travis, Naffy, Noodle, Tiz, Art, Kiki Jiki, Gabriel, and Richard. You guys are awesome. I post anime or manga videos often, or you can click here to watch additional videos. Again, thanks for watching, and I'll see you all again next time on Musings by Danon.